Looks like there's a lot of confusion and turmoil happening at OpenAI right now. In this video, we're going to explore some articles and tweets that many might have overlooked. These pieces of information hint that something's not quite right at OpenAI. We'll delve into the nitty-gritty details that you might have missed. So stay tuned till the end because this story is quite intriguing. Let's start by discussing one of the first things that something you might have missed was Ilya Sustkever, and then got rid of it. And the tweet was pretty vague, so he tweeted this and said, "I've learned a lot in the last month. One of these lessons is that the term "the beatings will continue until morale improves" is used way too often." Tweet is also pretty interesting because it's not very clear what it means. If you go to Twitter, you won't be able to find this because he deleted it about 2 hours later. Also, a little more information will be added later in the video, but the main point of this tweet about what is said to happen at OpenAI is that the phrase "the beatings will continue until morale improves" is meant to be sarcastic and show how silly it is to try to make things better by punishing or criticizing people. It's often used to criticize harsh or unsuccessful management styles, implying that those styles are not likely to succeed. Wanted result like better work or higher happiness. We think it might mean that he didn't like how things were being treated within the organization, which in this case is OpenAI. It also means that he thought the methods being used weren't working and were actually making things worse. However, we don't have more information about this direct issue. Without more information and more direct statements, we won't really know what's going on. The fact that this tweet was deleted is the only thing that makes this really scary. There are two reasons why the tweet might have been taken down. No matter what, Ilya felt bad about how he handled this. Or, number two, his lawyer told him to do it. We'll talk more about this later in the video, but Business Insider shows that Ilya Sustkever has hired a lawyer for some reason. You also know that when there are lawyers involved, most of the time, you shouldn't say anything during a case if there is one going on at all. Many people would think that Ilya Sustkever is definitely having some kind of problem at OpenAI because of this deleted tweet. A month before, though, that we did get this tweet from Greg Brockman and Ilya Sustkever. You should know that the piece I'm about to show you tells a very different story because, as of a few days ago, we did learn that Ilya Sustkever's job at OpenAI isn't going so well, and there's a lot of evidence to back that up. You can see that this sentence says, OpenAI co-founder Ilya Sustkever has become invisible at the company, and his future is uncertain, which is what it says. And this comes just a few days after Ilya Sustkever posted the first thing we saw, which he then took down. The piece then goes on to be read. While Ilya Sustkever has done a lot for OpenAI, it may not be enough to make up for the fact that he helped get Sam Altman fired. OpenAI hasn't said anything public about his job yet, and there are signs that the situation is still unstable. The artist Ilya Sustkever has also hired his own lawyer, and his work can be seen on the walls of OpenAI, even though he is no longer known since Sam Altman came back. As it goes on, it says that the chief scientist and co-founder of OpenAI, who led some of the company's most important creative AI breakthroughs, was a key figure in this shocking. Two people who know about the company say that Altman, who was fired as CEO and co-founder by the board in November, has not been seen at the San Francisco offices this week. After the drama finished, Business Insider talked to 3 people who know Sustkever's well at the company and 2 people who know those involved. They asked to remain anonymous because they are not allowed to talk about internal issues. Insiders already know who they are. In the end, this part is really worrying. They say Ilya Sustkever hasn't been seen at the company's offices in San Francisco this week. Either Ilya Sustkever has taken some time off, quit, or something is wrong, because you don't want to see such an important part of OpenAI not at work, especially after what happened with the board. Add to that the fact that Ilya Sustkever tweets things and then deletes them. From this, it's clear that he either wants to say something but can't, because of the law, or is trying to transmit a message. We will talk about Sam's official message to Ilya Sustkever later in the video, because it talks about Ilya's part in OpenAI and what he will be doing. The story goes on to say that Sustkever's presence can still be felt in company systems like Slack and through his drawings and paintings that are used as decor. It also talks about his present and future at OpenAI. Hasn't yet received public attention from the leadership, according to others. One person said that Ilya will always have played a big part, but that there are now a lot of people who are taking on the duty that Ilya used to have. From the first part of this sentence, it sounds like whatever jobs and responsibilities Ilya Sustkever had at OpenAI are being taken over by other people. This means that it's clear that Ilya Sustkever's role at OpenAI may not be clear. We also know that we are in a very important time of year because there are a lot of holidays coming up. This means that next week we probably won't have as much work. But we also know that 2024 is coming up very quickly. Could it be that Ilya Sustkever is about to leave for another job in 2024? Or will there be more talks within the company that will help Ilya Sustkever finally decide where he will work or solidify his place within the organization, so things can go back to normal? As you can see, the story goes on to say that another person said that Sustkever is being talked about as getting a new job title at the company and that someone wants to find him a role. It also talks about a happy picture of Sustkever on Twitter last month with co-founder and president Greg Brockman. Brockman was the first person to quit in support of Altman, but of course, his body language made it clear that they all wanted to get back to work. So the job at the company has yet to be chosen. Ilya Sustkever clearly feels like he's stuck at work right now, which is not a good situation for someone working at one of the world's most important companies. If you work at a company like this, you should either be working, joining another company, or making a contribution in some way. You don't just want not or make sure you know where you are. And I think Ilya Sustkever is having a very confusing and hard time right now. The story goes on to say that the chief scientist and co-founder of OpenAI, who is responsible for some of the company's biggest advances in generative AI, played a major role in this shocking. Two people who know about the company say that Altman, who was fired as CEO and co-founder by the board in November, has not been seen at the San Francisco offices this week. After the drama finished, Business Insider talked to 3 people who know Sustkever's well at the company and 2 people who know those involved. They asked to remain anonymous because they are not allowed to talk about internal issues. Insiders already know who they are. In the end, this part is really worrying. They say Ilya Sustkever hasn't been seen at the company's offices in San Francisco this week. Either Ilya Sustkever has taken some time off, quit, or something is wrong, because you don't want to see such an important part of OpenAI not at work, especially after what happened with the board. Add to that the fact that Ilya Sustkever tweets things and then deletes them. From this, it's clear that he either wants to say something but can't because of the law, or is trying to transmit a message. We will talk about Sam's official message to Ilya Sustkever later in the video because it talks about Ilya's part in OpenAI and what he will be doing. Theory given Sustkever's role at the company and his role in Altman's unfair firing, this apparent state of confusion is not exactly a surprise. Brockman quit, and almost every other OpenAI worker said they would do the same if Altman wasn't brought back and the board that fired him was removed. A lot of them are. Even though Sustkever was on that board, he is much more important and influential at the company because he co-founded it than any of the other board members. This is also very, very true. Some former board members, like Helen Toner, aren't as important to the company as, for example, Ilya Sustkever is literally the most important person on the board because of what he's done for OpenAI in terms of ChatGPT. He's really, really important to OpenAI, so they can't just get rid of him. That's why there's this weird spot where I think half of the people are thinking that the whole board should be taken down. On the other hand, Ilya Sustkever is definitely working for the company. It says that another sign is that Ilya Sustkever has hired his own lawyer, Alex Weingarten of Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, who is the head of the litigation business there. It was reported by Business Insider earlier. Business Insider asked Weingarten to comment on this story, but he didn't. He had told us before that Ilya wants what's best for the company. Since Ilya Sustkever's lawyer is telling them that this is a tough time, it looks like the only thing Ilya can say is that he wants what's best for the company. It will be interesting to see what path they take. The story goes on to say that Sustkever is a deeply emotional and intellectual person who is also one of the people who know about the situation. That's what they said. Someone who might not seem to be fully present at the moment, but is. He's just getting things in a different way. What really interested me was how someone I know basically said that Sustkever is someone who sees themselves as an AI god and is angry about not being able to make decisions about GPT-5 and plans to grow the business and goods. We can see that they were working on GPT-5. They may not have meant to say this, but it's clear that they were working on some kind of extra details that we did get. We know they are working on GPT-5 because Sam Altman recently said so, and we did make a video about the GPT-5 announcement. But now we can see that ChatGPT-5 being pushed is what made the whole thing worse. and I guess they didn't want the company to grow. It also says that Sustkever is seen as an AI thinker within the company, even though his academic style didn't win him as many fans among engineers as Altman and Brockman's did. Many workers still value what Sustkever did for the company. Now, this is where the story talks about how Sam Altman said in a statement after coming back to work that he doesn't dislike Ilya and wants to keep working with him. He also told The Verge that he was upset and angry, which is probably because the fact that Altman was fired came as a bit of a surprise. They didn't even have a meeting. He woke up one morning and was pretty much out for the day. That is something he does talk about in an interview with Trevor Noah. In fact, it's pretty cool. I might put a clip from it on this channel, but right now I'm not sure because of copyright. Then this is, of course, a very interesting point of view. This is mostly what I believe, but it will depend on how people see certain problems, as one Microsoft employee who knows Altman, Sustkever, and Brockman will put it. Doesn't think the three of them can ever work well together again, because as we say in Silicon Valley, Sustkever and Brockman found it hard to decide whether or not another person was guilty of blasphemy. In the same way, a former employee of OpenAI said that some engineers who are loyal to Altman and Brockman might find it hard to work with Sustkever because of his role in the outsteer. The former worker said that trust can't be fixed once it's lost. This is also true for a lot of other things. Ilya Sustkever can't work in OpenAI because of some problems. Is that going to be the time frame we have now? There may be a lot of talk about where Ilya Sustkever will go next. Of course, this is where Elon Musk comes in. Musk wants Ilya Sustkever from OpenAI to come work with him again, this time at XIE. It turns out that Elon Musk and Ilya Sustkever have worked together before. It was also interesting that Musk and Altman, who worked together at OpenAI, stole Sustkever from Google in 2015 to help start the company. And this link says that Ilya Sustkever's future at OpenAI is unclear after he hoped to out Elon Musk. And Sam Altman have said that Sustkever could come work with them again. Ilya Sustkever's future at the company is unsure because he took part and then felt bad about it. After Sam Altman was fired by the board in November, insiders told Business Insider on Saturday that Sustkever's future at the company is uncertain because the leadership has not yet decided what to do with him. He is also no longer on OpenAI's board. Now, this is really interesting information because I want you to pay attention to two main points. First, it says that on December 9, someone wrote on X, formerly Twitter, that Sustkever should work at Tesla, and Elon Musk replied to the post, who is also a past member of the OpenAI board, and he basically told him to go work at X. After that, Musk actually said that Sustkever was the key to OpenAI's success in an interview with CNBC in May. When Elon Musk talks about Ilya Sustkever as the linchpin of OpenAI's success, he basically means that Musk thinks Sustkever is a very important part of OpenAI's growth and success. The word linchpin is often used as a metaphor for someone or something that holds together different parts of a complicated system. Without them, the system might not work as well or even fall apart. Thus, Musk's words suggest that, in his opinion, things like our talents, skills, or leadership are very important to the success of OpenAI. What was also interesting was the second point I really wanted to make. You can see that after opening his eyes and being bored with fied Sam Altman, Musk supported Ilya Sustkever on Twitter by saying that Ilya has a good sense of right and wrong and doesn't want power. Such a dramatic step would not be taken by him unless he was sure it was necessary. And Sustkever didn't answer right away when Business Insider sent her a question asking for a comment for whatever reason. It was clear that Elon Musk supported Ilya Sustkever's acts by saying, maybe Ilya Sustkever did have a good reason for firing Sam Altman, but we need to know what that reason is because right now everyone else, the whole world, is in a state of limbo. Because you have to think about it this way. If Ilya Sustkever, a board member, decided that firing someone he's worked with for a couple of years isn't a major red flag, it should be for the rest of us that clearly needed to be taken care of. Finally, here is the statement that Sam Altman put out, in which he basically says, I love and respect Ilya. I think he's the leader in the field and a wonderful person. He will also no longer be on the board, and we are talking about how he can keep working at OpenAI. It was also interesting that more information came out about where Sam Altman lived at OpenAI, and a new report says that Altman may have been a manipulative leader at times. The report says that Altman put board members and workers against each other to stay in power. As I said before, this is all just a guess. I'll put links to all the stories in the description below. This last piece is important because it tells us something very interesting about what we are looking at. You can see right here that it says we now know more about what Sam Altman did that was so bad that OpenAI fired him. It also says that new information suggests Sam Altman abused his power to control OpenAI board members. I want to read this story with you quickly because some of the details we saw here shocked me, especially the ones I didn't expect. So this piece is mostly made up of 3 parts. The first one is called Altman versus Toner, and it's mostly about how Altman and Helen Toner, a board member, didn't always agree. After that, Sam Altman called Toner to talk about the paper. He said it might make things difficult with the Federal Trade Commission, which was already looking into OpenAI. Next, Toner offered to write an apology letter to OpenAI's board. But Altman later emailed execs to say that he had already scolded Toner and said, "I don't feel like we're on the same page about this." For damage all the time, and it's possible that Altman made things worse between Toner and another board member because of their fight. Then Altman called other board members and told them that Macaulay wanted Toner to leave the board. People who knew about both of these conversations told the Times. Then, when board members asked Macaulay about the event, she of course said that this was not true at all. After that, we have some interesting ideas here, where it says Altman versus Sustkever, and it turns out that Altman and Sustkever already had a tense relationship because they didn't agree on a lot of things, or what they believe in their hearts. It also says that Sustkever was seen as a visionary with an academic approach that didn't always get along with an engineer like Altman. Sustkever thought Altman was pushing OpenAI to build the technology too quickly, so he wanted to take a more cautious approach. Over time, Sustkever got angry at not being able to make choices about GPT-5 and plans to grow the business and the product. And then, of course, things got really bad in October when Altman promoted a researcher level the same as Sustkever. Sustkever saw this as an insult to his status in the company and told the other board members he might quit as a protest. Then it says that some of the 6 board members at the time thought Altman was being dishonest and too smart. Some of them had worked for nonprofits or in college before, and they liked Altman's move fast and break things style of management for tech companies. So that didn't always sit well with them. A person familiar with the board's actions told The New Yorker that they thought Sam had lied. They also feared Altman's behavior so much that when they started talking about firing him, they wanted to make sure no one knew about it. It was clear that as soon as Sam knew he would do anything to hurt the board, and in a meeting with OpenAI staff 2 nights after Sam Altman was fired, Sustkever talked about one reason the board gave him for Altman's firing. Within the company, people who were at the meeting earlier told Business Insider. Altman was said to have given the same job to 2 different people in the organization, which was another reason Sustkever gave. Altman also didn't say he didn't have problems with the board before he was fired. And it's clear that I and some board members really didn't understand each other. It basically ends by saying that the fact that Altman was quickly reinstated as CEO shows that these accusations weren't enough for the company's important backers, like Microsoft, and that Sustkever too has said he's sorry for what he did. But word on the street is that Altman may have gotten the message that he needs to change how people see him. In any case, this shows that we are living in an interesting time because Ilya Sustkever is still in a bit of a limbo at starting high. We hope that things get better. He could go to a different company or come back to Google. Because Ilya Sustkever is an important part of OpenAI, this won't help the progress in any case.